All right, there we go. Well, welcome to Monday night's Young Entrepreneur Syndicate call. It's good to have everybody here. I'm going to go a couple of different directions tonight. I want to hit the meat of it first, and then we're going to talk in general terms about just life in general. So, if that works for everyone, let's get going. Tonight's topic, and I'm kind of excited about this, is complexity is the enemy of execution. And this is the opposite way to dive into the discussion about keep it simple, stupid, right? We've all, well, that's not, I guess, politically correct now. It's keep it simple, silly, right? So that we're not offending anyone and hurting feelings, but it's keep it simple. And we've heard that probably our whole lives in just about every aspect that you can imagine. But what does that really mean? What does that mean? What it means is simplifying processes and focusing on clear objectives can help mitigate challenges. That's what it means. So you need to start developing, if you haven't already your whole life, developing habits of simplification in all of your processes, especially with small businesses and startup businesses and even big businesses. When you see all the people who go in and consult for large corporations, they usually have overcomplicated processes from hiring to technology. If they've got issues and problems, it usually is something of that nature. So keep in mind that keeping it simple is should be a way of life and a way of doing business. And I'm going to kind of bounce off of that just to launch into things a little bit. It doesn't mean you can't process lots of information. So let's clarify. I am one of those people that I like lots of data. I like lots of information. Case in point, well, when I was on city council, I always wanted more information, right? To make decisions, to make wise decisions, more information is better. I sit on the city county health board now, and I'm constantly asking all the departmental heads for more data, more information. After the COVID fiasco, I don't want to go down that route again on anything related to public or community health. So I'm always wanting to dive deeper. And they typically look at me like, I'm the board member asking for more, and everyone else is like, let's just get out of this meeting and go on. But data matters because when you're looking at trends, more data helps. However, you can simplify how you look at data, and that's where you can keep it simple. So I'm asking for more information. They're already collecting it, they just haven't been disseminating it. And so I asked for the data and I asked for it to be disseminated in ways that the board members and the community would be able to see it at just a quick glance and see what's going on with trends. What's happening here? So don't be confused when I say simplify by thinking that means doing less of everything. You can do more and still keep it simple, especially with all the technology we have, especially with all of the software programs we have. And Rachel, you've walked us through this group so many times with tools that help make our jobs easier and simplify. Once you learn how to operate those tools, it does simplify. But it doesn't mean you stop gathering data. It doesn't mean you stop gathering information. So that's my overarching caution. Don't simplify to the point where you're giving up solid information that you need. So you can look at things, and this is what I ask for from the health department, the different departments. I want bar graphs, I want pie charts, I want lines moving up and down so we can see those trends and how they track. And it makes a difference. And I will tell you that the entire board, every member on that board has come up to me at one point in time or another and thanked me for getting more data and being able to see it in a different way. And that's the other thing. What some people might perceive in a pie graph, other people might want to see in a graph, a bar graph. So having the same information presented in different ways can actually change people's perception and how they process that information. So you can do that too. If you don't like the way something, if it's not resonating with you, the information you have, put it in a different format, see what it looks like. Have someone else put a pair of eyes on it and bring it back to you. So here are the problems. Again, the title of this is Complexity is the Enemy of Execution. So what can happen if you're not simplifying? And I'm going to break this down. I've got 7 key points that we're going to look at. The first is resource constraints. If you're not planning, right, and you're just, if you're getting too complicated with all of your planning, you need to, if you're budgeting a project, for example, yeah, let's say you're building a deck and you want to start itemizing the price of each and every screw and the drill bits you might need, or if you break a drill bit. Now, I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole, right? That's overcomplicating things. So look at things in a broad sense, but you still have to be detail focused. So when you're looking at planning details, be creative with how you look at those things. Get, more eyes on the project if you can, to help you figure out how to, boil down those things so that it works well for you. And when you're in fact, I've actually had one of our members called me up and was asking about inventory for startups and how much is necessary. She wanted to do some trade shows and how much inventory should I have. And this is what I tell everybody: find ways around the inventory equation. And this is something I learned in sports. Your lean weight is your mean weight. I wrestled. And so you always wanted lean. When you were lean, you were mean. When you were lean, you weren't packing extra stuff around. You didn't have extra baggage. When you keep things lean, you can maneuver. You're not carrying dead weight. So think of that with your business. When you're thinking you might need more, how much more? Well, you might need more, yes, but keep it lean. If you're not going to make a mistake by being lean, especially if you think through how you can do it with the smaller resources that you do have. Okay. So work better and more efficiently when there's less to pack around. That's the bottom line there. And the other thing is if you've got all these details, you can spread your teams too thin. And that can lead to missed deadlines, subpar campaigns that might fail to attract new clients. I mean, if you're just bogging your people down with details, it's going to be too much. And by team, I don't just mean businesses. I know that some people in the syndicate here, it might just be you, your spouse, and Rachel, I've even heard you say your family doesn't want to hear about your business stuff. They don't care, right? So how much information is too much for the team, for the home team, right? You need to just keep it simple. I need your help with this so I can accomplish this. You don't need to go into the weeds and give them all the details about the what's and who's and wherefores, but they do need to be informed and on the same page so that they understand. So you don't want resource constraints, and that can happen if you're getting into too much detail, too complex. The second thing, and we've all experienced this, is communication challenges. When you start making things too complex, and I've seen this in every business and every job I've ever had, from corporate America to the military, communication challenges are always an issue when people especially try and get a whole bunch of information out in the wrong format. All right. In the corporate world, it's a lot of memos, quick memos. So don't overburden yourself. I'm actually consulting with an old college friend who's been working on a business plan for 27 years, and he's trying to, make some headway. And everything he sends to me is complex. It's bogged down, and he's sending memos to people. They're like 3 pages. And it's like, no, you got to condense, you got to simplify. So communication challenges. And here's my one takeaway for anybody on this call tonight. And I learned this in 15 years in professional sales. One phone call can save 5 or 6 or more text messages back and forth, or 6 emails back and forth. Sometimes just one phone call. You get to the chase, you clear out the clutter, you get to the point, and you're done. And you can tell that to people. If they're starting to text you, get them on the phone, say, hey, look, I'm just going to call you. It'll be a lot more efficient for both of us, and we can get this done. I'm telling you, it will be a time saver for you. Even if it's with your suppliers, if one phone call, you're not going to have miscommunication. So communication challenges, when you get too complex, it's going to bog you down. So no, that was 2. First is resource constraints. 2, communication challenges. Number 3, increased risk of errors. Anytime you're making things more complex, you're increasing the risk of errors. You might understand it, You might not make the error, but if you're passing that information on to a teammate, a team member, one of your staff, and they don't see the whole picture like you do in your head, and you've not communicated it clearly, you're going to end up with errors. As projects get more complex, as your business grows and the supply funnels become more complex and the deadlines and the more customers you have, things get more complex. So you're always needing to simplify those processes so you cut down on errors. And errors cost money. All right. Number 4, decision-making bottlenecks. This is probably the most common thing that I see is the more complex something is, the more people get other people involved in it. And the more people that are involved in it, the more complex it becomes. It's like a snowball. So keep the decision-making process to the smallest number of people that are necessary. If you get more people involved, it's going to definitely make it more complex. And my wife just she was invited to a women's retreat recently, and she couldn't go to it. She had other obligations, and she was talking to one of the ladies that helped set this retreat up. And she came back and she was ready to tear her hair out. She said, "Do you know what it's like to have everybody in the room have an opinion on how every little detail should be?" And that can happen. It bogs down decision-making bottlenecks, too many people in the room. And I learned this a long, long time ago in my first network marketing foray. And it was if an organization or anything has more than one head, what is it? If it's got 2 heads or 3 heads, it's a monster. Somebody needs to be a point person. So if you have a new project going out, somebody needs to be the point person. Not 2 people, not 3 people, not a team. Somebody on that team needs to be the point person. So make sure when you're delegating different tasks, different assignments, that you are keeping it to one person that's going to be ultimately responsible for that stuff. Because your decision-making bottlenecks will cost you money, they will cost you time, they will cost you communication errors. So number 5, difficulty in adaptability. And this is one of the best things that entrepreneurs and startups have going for them. They can maneuver in a market. They're brand new to a market. You're the one who's, can float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. You can be nimble, you can be quick, you can adapt, you can change. Recently, Jim and I were talking to I think he was talking to somebody, it might have been in the In-N-Out chain. And he said when their corporate comes out with a new policy and they want to implement it store-wide, hundreds, thousands of franchises out there, it takes a year for that change to be fully implemented on the ground. A year. If you're a small business, you're a mom and pop, or you're even medium-sized business, it's not going to take a year to implement a change. You want to change a software program you're using, you can change it immediately. You can change it overnight. You can learn the program, you can do it, and you don't have to retrain staff. So think of the benefits you have of being a smaller or a mid-sized business. You don't have the difficulty of adaptation to new things. So that is, again, keeping it simple. So again, small businesses, you've got advantages. That also can be a problem, right? Because if you're not planning appropriately for those changes, then you can run into different issues, scheduling problems. At any stage of a business growth, you end up with different demands. So the other thing is if demand is shifting, you can not be left with extra inventory, for example. You don't want to be going into one season with too much seasonal merchandise for another one. That's just money tied up. Money tied up is going to cost you money. So again, if you're small enough and you're keeping records and you're keeping track of those trends, you're going to be able to be nimble and move, and again, lean and mean. Number 6, overwhelmed team members. When you get complex, and I kind of dealt with this earlier with the communication part, but again, a complex project, or the more complex things get, the more complicated it's going to be. And people who wear many hats have a complicated time with their business anyway. And I'm going to give you an example. I know all of you here run your own businesses, but I'm going to break down my wife's business so you can see the hats that she wears and how complicated that can be. She is in solo practice, but she has had a partner. She's a professional licensed LLC, and she is a teaching. Her whole goal has always been a teaching business. So she takes on apprentices, and you have to be apprenticed in Montana and most other states too. So she's somebody who's licensed to apprentice and train new midwives. And she's trained up 8 midwives in her practice. She's had 8 different apprentices, all who have become midwives. And so as a teaching practice, she even has more responsibilities. And that's one of the things you just decide, what is it you're going to do? But delegating to other team members becomes something that you have to do judiciously. And in her case, she's always having to delegate so that they can learn. Everything's a learning experience and a learning opportunity. But that's in the midwifery field. What they don't see is her midwifery practice. This is the business aspect. So she's a home birth midwife. So what she does basically is she has clients that are pregnant. She sees them throughout their pregnancy, labor, delivery, postpartum. And for each person, that's a minimum of 30 one-hour visits, okay, through the course of their pregnancy. And she is usually about 50 per year. All right. So add up the hours. And she's on call 24/7. So you talk about having things compressed and down there. Now, her apprentices, and when she's had partners, it's good because they just get a call when they need to go. They don't have to deal with this other stuff. So I was breaking down my wife's business, and this is what she has to do. She's an appointment scheduler. She does billing. She does accounting. She does the insurance billing and all the follow-up with insurance. And let me tell you what, that is a most medical practices have somebody who's full-time just with insurance. Supply acquisition, she has to keep up on her office supplies, her medical supplies, her lab supplies, her oxygen supplies, state reports. Again, now you're in a professional place. There are reports that have to be filed and done, hearing screenings, transfers of care, filing reports for her apprentices, continuing education and certifications, not only for herself, but for her staff, consultations with other medical professionals, and that's required by law, research that she has to do, the insurance billing I already mentioned and follow up, equipment maintenance and sterilization of the instruments when she's done. She has to do janitorial. She didn't hire a janitor for her home office. She does her own janitorial. She does her own website and social media posting and professional development and collaboration. So she's not just doing this in a silo. She's working with other midwives, other doctors, other medical professionals. So all of those things, how can you get bottlenecked up with that, right? So she doesn't overwhelm her new apprentices with all the details of running a business. She teaches them and trains them as they go, bite-sized chunks, right? How do you eat an elephant? Bite-sized chunks. If you brought somebody in and ran through all the things she has to do on a daily basis to keep her business running, nobody would ever want to do it. They would literally blow out of the water, not to mention the long hours, right? And being on call 24/7. So you have to remember that you have team members and they need to know what's necessary to accomplish the job. Don't overburden team members. And again, that gets down to family. Your family is your closest team. It's one of the most important things. If your family's not functioning right, you're not going to be functioning right, and you're going to pass that negative energy on to your customers, your clients, your employees. So make sure you get that part right, especially with the family. Number 7, the other problem is lack of clear focus, and this is probably one of the biggest. The more complex things get, and this happens especially when you start growing, you want to grow inventory, more product line, more opportunities, jump into another thing. Jim talked last week about being involved in 7 different businesses. You know, you're juggling, you're constantly juggling, but none of them take all of your focus at the same time. right? So you get to be a scheduling master. You get to be an expert at juggling your own businesses, your own tasks that you have, whether it's one, two, or 10, right? But you lack clear focus if you get too many out there. There's only so much any one of us can do and accomplish without delegating to other people, right? So if to keep your focus clear, try not to have everything be complicated. Simplification, that way you're not going to dilute your attention. Your focus on your core objectives. And I watched a survival show, just a short reel the other day, and I learned a life lesson from there. And I actually shared it with some of my family yesterday, and it works for everything. This gentleman, survival expert, was saying, "I can be I know how to be cold, I know how to be hungry, and I know how to be tired." So when you're in a survival situation, he said, "Here's the ticket. You can only do one of those at a time. You can only survive one of those at a time. So you pick your priority. If you don't want to be cold, work on the heat source, work on the shelter, right? If you don't want to be hungry, work on the food source. If you don't want to be tired, work on the sleeping, right? But anytime you are not focused on, if you get all three of those at one, you got the trifecta and you're done. You get two of them at the same time, you're done. You're weakened, you're going to be out. You're going to lack clear focus. So this is a lesson about priorities. What is the priority? Tackle the priority, do it one at a time. You can't have three going at once. You have to fix one at a time. And then you can put up with anything. You can be cold for a long, long time as long as you're well rested and well fed. You can put up with that. You can be tired for a long time as long as you're not cold and as long as you're not hungry, right? You can be hungry for a long time. You can go 40 days as long as you're not cold and as long as you're not tired. So pick the task, and it really is just that basic. Even in business, pick the task that takes the priority, focus on that one thing. Don't let them build up so that you've got more than one going at a time. More than one problem at a time is not manageable. Fix the problem, move on to the next. Fix that problem, move on to the next. And it's in the medical field, it's differential diagnosis. Any of you who have mechanical backgrounds, it's differential diagnosis. You don't overhaul a car because it's not running right, right? You figure out what's wrong, what's causing it to not run right. That's where you start. That's the focus. One problem at a time. Don't make it too complex. Well, it could be this. It could be. That list goes on and on. Get a Chilton's manual. That's how we used to fix cars. I don't know if any of you even know what that is, but they used to have a Chilton manual. You could go to the library, the local library, and get a Chilton's manual on any car that was manufactured out there. And it was the technical manual to tell you how to do every single thing on that car. And that's how you used to solve problems. You would go to the back of that thing and start troubleshooting. So how do you know what problems need your attention first? This gets down to your values and your goals. Jim and I and Rachel talk about this all the time. Values, 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 because your values are going to help set your priorities, and those in alignment with your goals are going to help you tackle the problem that's most important for you at the time. So, in conclusion, small businesses, simplifying projects, and executing is crucial for your success, no matter how big your business. Just starting a medium-sized or even large businesses. Large businesses need to get back to the basics, and these are the basics. Recognizing and addressing the factors that contribute to complexity is going to help you find efficiency. So improve communication and increase your likelihood of success in a project just by knowing that you don't want resource constraints, you don't want communication issues, you don't want increased risk of errors, you don't want decision-making bottlenecks, you don't want difficulty and adaptability, and you don't want to overwhelm your team members, and you want everyone to be operating with clear focus. That's what keeping it simple means. So complexity, sometimes you can wow people with how big and how great and how complex all this stuff is, but it's not working to your advantage other than to wow people. So that's first and foremost. So before we get into discussion, I had promised before several people that I was going to do a quick history of what I have been doing for 3 years on the side. And this gets back to when Jim and I first started the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, and we started another business as well, and brought Rachel on board. Thank goodness, thank you, Rachel. So good to have you. But at that same point in time, I was at a critical point in my career. I had just finished writing a book, and I was feeling lethargic, lazy. I didn't have my next thing lined up yet. And again, Jim and I had just started uh, working together and just fleshing ideas out, literally just kicking, having coffee together and brainstorming different things that we could do. And at that time, I had been sitting around in my bathrobe sometimes at 11 o'clock in the morning, watching the world go by, because I didn't have anything else I had to do. I'd accomplished what I wanted to do, but I was kind of like in between jobs, in between careers, and looking for the next best thing. And I told my wife, I said, I miss hard work right now. And I don't want any more stress. I've had these high stress jobs for decades. And now I want something calm. I want something, but I want to work. And I'm not a gym rat. Rachel, my hat off to you, and Jim and Samantha. You guys can go to the gym and hit it hard. That bores me to tears. I can chase a ball around all day long. I'll go run in the woods. I will fall down, exhausted doing other things, but I can't do it on a treadmill. I just can't. My wife knows that about me too. And she's not like me. She likes the gym stuff. So in any case, I said, I just want something that will get me up in the morning, because I'm a morning person, but I kind of let that go. And I need something physical, and I don't want any stress. And my wife, we were actually driving in the car. She got on her phone, she looked at Indeed.com, and she finds this advertisement for a job for UPS, United Parcel Service, unloading trailers, semis in the morning. And I used to unload salt when I was in high school, right? For the Culligan. I mean, wrestlers and football team would go unload these semi loads of salt. And, I used to stack hay, slinging hay bales around and stuff. I mean, I like hard work. I'm familiar with it, and I like it. I chop wood. I can chop wood all day long. And it gave me great satisfaction. So my wife finds this job for me. That was on a Thursday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I started 4:30 in the morning and done by 9:30. Just get up in the morning, go to work, and be done. And I said, that's what I need. I just need to kickstart. I need a kickstart to get out there. And I told the supervisor, I said, I don't want any responsibility. I don't want to deal with people. Tell me what I need to do, and leave me alone. So here's the 60-year-old guy out there working with a bunch of 20, some 30-year-old people, some people who had been there for 15, 20 years doing this. And I liked it. I break a sweat within the first 15 minutes of work, and I go, 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 go. So I was doing a cost benefit analysis, and I've done this every year. So my wife even asked, well, how long are you going to do this? And I said, well, I'm not enjoying it anymore. That's when I'm going to stop. But my latest cost benefit analysis, it'll be 3 years on October 27th. So I took a part-time job, $20 an hour. It's $21.75 now, but it's part-time and it has full-time benefits. So I did a breakdown, what I'd be paying for a gym membership, $40 a month. I have full insurance for me and my entire family that I don't pay anything for other than union dues. And that saved me $1,500 a month. And that's been over the course of 3 years now. And the insurance policy I had, because it was, insurance that you're paying on your own, it had a $10,000 deductible to make it affordable for my wife and I. And with the issues I had a year ago, my surprise heart surgery, that saved me $10,000 in things. It cost me a full $100 to have a $500,000 surgery and all the stuff that went with that. So where am I after 3 years, not counting the medical expenses that were fully covered? This has been a net positive of $94,395 to get up in the morning 5 days a week and go to work. And I have 5 weeks of paid vacation every year. So, and full medical for myself and my wife. If I had 15 kids, it would cover them as well. So by trying to keep things simple, it actually not just saved me money on insurance, but it paid me to the tune of $94,000 so far, plus a heart surgery. So sometimes just trying to simplify has benefits. So do your cost benefit analysis, even for things like that in your life. What if you took on another client? What if you took on another job? What's the cost benefit analysis to you personally? What is it to your business, and what is it going to be to your family? And don't be afraid to look long term, because there wasn't a benefit for the first year before all the benefits kicked in. It was actually 9 months with my employer, but you can't just look day to day, week to week, month to month. You have to look further ahead. And if that's not complicated, that's simplifying. Just look at it a year down the road. I can do anything for a year. I can do anything for a year. My son is working on another business with a different business and a different business partner, and he's looking at they're ready to take on another $800,000 contract, and he's not so sure he wants to commit to it. And I said, well, how long will it take you to do that? And he said 2 years. And I said, well, what will it look like for you in 2 years? Can you do that for 2 more years? Do you want to? It really is a matter of looking ahead for a year or 2 years. How much more do you want to take on? How much more work do you want to take on? How much more stress does that put on you and your family? What's the cost benefit analysis? And if it's working for you, step up and do it. Jim, the answer is yes. Freedom to say yes. But sometimes the important thing is to know when to say no, so you can say yes to the more important thing that is already there. So it's a balancing act, and you get better at it the more you experience it. So that's the hard lesson. But again, that's what we're here for. We've learned the hard way how to do that. So if you've ever had issues with trying to keep things simple and things are getting too complicated, that's where we can all help. Rachel is great with helping with software and other ideas. Jim and I both, with the vast experience we have in different things, we can simplify. And believe me, if you want to get complicated, I can drag you into the weeds. But that's not the best thing. If you need an extra sounding board, set of ears, set of eyes on something, even a project, or a proposal that someone comes with you to, bring it to us and we'll help you sort through that. Anyway, Rachel, I'd like to get your feedback, and then we'll see what Chris and Wayne have for us tonight, and we'll wrap her up.
Okay, great topic tonight. The topic of complexity is the enemy of execution. So this came up for our company a couple times recently. We're a mid-size boutique advertising agency, and things happen really fast for us. And coming from the big agency world of hundreds and thousands of employees, I used to use the analogy, and this is kind of to your point earlier, Rod, getting things done fast. Well, in the big agency world or the big corporate structure, it's like trying to turn a cruise ship, right? Like, it doesn't make quick turns. It doesn't make sharp turns. It's got a wide berth that it comes when it goes through, right? So my team enjoys the fact and tells me regularly that they really appreciate that we get things approved quickly. And this could be a myriad of different things. We had a new team member start, and she was like, "Oh, well, I don't have a computer." And I'm like, "Oh, well, we have one. We have an extra from the last girl that's no longer working for us. Here you go." Or it was like, "Oh, hey, like I need this subscription to this thing in order to complete my job." Okay, great. Yeah, done. Sounds good. Let's do it. Like small things, but removing obstacles, whereas in a bigger company, in a bigger structure, that would have been approvals and signatures and rounds. And same thing with clients, right? We're often working with business owners, key decision makers, and they don't have to like take it up the chain of command and take it back down and all that. They're like, "Oh, we love it. Yes, approved, in the room," it's really great. So I think there's a lot of benefits to being either a small or a mid-sized company and working with the key decision makers. So for me, that removes a lot of frustration. And I think that, my team appreciates it too. Um, and the other thing I was thinking about is that can be a bottleneck sometimes as your company does grow. If you are the only key decision maker and everybody on the team starts trying to get your eye on something to review, you can become the bottleneck. So one of the things, the way we've built Sunday Brunch is, with self-directed teams, everybody has a certain level of autonomy and ability to make their own decisions, and they're entrusted with a certain level of free reign to make those decisions, which also people seem to really like. I think we're living in a time where there's more entrepreneurs than there have ever been, which I love, and I think is a real blessing. I think entrepreneurs are changing the world. So, I like to buy local. I like to work with people that have skin in the game and that are, you know, keeping things simple and able to execute well. And, you know, that's the other thing, like really high quality standards. Um, I think I was, whether you're thinking about like your advertising efforts or you're going to buy First Form supplement products from, Andy Frisella, right? I mean, they're like some of the best that are out there. I'm going to share one more thing. I don't know if any of you guys are a fan of Simon Sinek. He gave a TED Talk years ago. It was one of the first TED Talks, by the way. Terrible production quality. It was like literally him standing in front of a big Post-it paper flipboard, writing on it with a Sharpie marker. But he talked about the golden circle and starting with why, and that now has become a book and it's become a whole like movement, right? It's great. But I was following him on social media, and he was talking about how he was at a conference and he was like, he ran into these guys and he was like, "Hey, aren't you the backpack luggage people?" And they were like, "Yeah, we make luggage, and they're not like JanSport or Tumi or, like one of like the big brands. Like they're like a little entrepreneurial team, right?" And he was like, "Oh my God, I travel all the time and I would really like a bag that I can like makes more sense to me. Like I want pockets here and I want it built like this and I want it like that." And they were like, "Sure, let's do it." So they made this amazing bag together and they're promoting it right now, by the way. I will share it with you. And this company, not only do they make high quality stuff, but they're also making all of their products out of recyclable plastic. So they're doing good for the world. I'm like, and the bag is called um the optimist bag, because Simon Sinek believes in optimism and like helping people. It's like, come on, like that's so great. So I think a lot of, you know, things don't have to be complex. We're going to execute well, and, different businesses are able to kind of do that in their own style, in their own way. So I hope that helps. I'll put a link, by the way, to that bag. And I'm not like affiliated, but I was just impressed. So I'll share it.
Maybe you should work on an affiliation.
Maybe I will.
Maybe you can. Maybe get Simon involved with some of what we're doing, like you did with Robert Greene.
I actually met Simon one time, and I will tell you, he is similar to Robert Greene, is so genuine and nice and lovely, just as you would expect him to be. It was so great. So I probably will.
There you go. And that's probably how he found you also. Authentic and genuine and great, like any of our members, right?
Yeah. So, all right, you guys, the company is called SoulGuard, and I'm going to put it in our chat. So, oh, and we have, all right, let's see, SoulGuard. And then now, of course, I have to tell you that I also, because I'm like, oh, they're doing good for the planet, and Simon Sinek and blah, blah, blah. I was like, and they was having a coupon. So I did get the Optimist backpack, and it hasn't arrived yet. But when it does, I will let you know if it lives up to the story. So now I'm going to put the deep link into that particular product, the Optimist bag. So for all of you entrepreneurs who are out there traveling who need a solution, this might be a good one. I don't know. I
Oh, love
I
it.
I recently was traveling over the summer, and I like 11th hour, like was packing the night before, and I realized that I didn't have a carry-on, and so I like ran out to the store and I just grabbed the first thing I could find, and then like by the end of the trip it was like falling apart, and I was like, oh, I was so disappointed. So I'm hopeful that this one will like be good quality, and like whereas the other one was like a no-name Target special or something. So no knock to anyone at Target. I like Target, but I'm just saying that brand wasn't
We
whatever.
know the differences.
Yeah. So anyways,
Well,
anything else that people want to talk about tonight?
Chris, Wayne, floor's open. Give us your worst story.
The worst story?
The worst story you can think of about any place you worked before that made things complex or so. Sometimes that's how we learn best. Tell us the bad
I,
stuff.
I've worked some crazy places. I worked in a starving artist slash actor's house for a little bit, and all he did was breed arachnids and insects and everything else, and it was horrible. You have no idea. He lived in Montecito Heights. He had a couple roles on some movies and was a super eccentric, fine artist. Yeah, the things you do when you're younger to pay the bills.
So
Hey,
what's
Rod, you there?
the lesson? What was the takeaway from that, Chris?
Well, the takeaway always is you still learn something. I actually went there because I wanted to learn more about different spiders and insects and everything else. So there was always a benefit, even in all the negatives. Um,
There you
you
go.
know, I don't think there's ever been a job that I haven't learned anything. But when you're in the mix, it doesn't seem like the best idea.
Right. All right. Thanks, Chris. Wayne, good to
Can you
see
guys
you
hear me?
in the flesh.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I got a new phone, so I'm trying to get it figured out right now. So just out here cleaning pools still. But this
Love
is
it.
my woosah, my works woosah. So but yeah, no, I really enjoy everything you always say, Rod. Like I just vibe with you. I vibe with what you got to say, and keeping it simple. That's kind of up my alley. I'm very complex, but pretty simple, you know. And my main values, I told Jim a while ago, was a simple life. You know, try to
Right.
keep it easy. That's kind of where I'm at right now with my business, of not having a million accounts and my phone not ringing off the hook. And I got time to be, like you said earlier. It just really today really resonated. Giving myself more time, so I'm more available for the things that I want. So like right now, like I told you guys, I'm pretty invested in my daughter's soccer league right now, being the coach. So we're 3 weeks in. And I way overthink it, but it's definitely fun. But my main thing I'm trying to tell myself is keep it simple for these girls, because we started off pretty rough. We got shut out the first game, like seven. Second game, we actually scored 2 and we won 2-1. And then last game, we just got shut out again. We got blown out, like bad. We didn't even get any shots. Like it was bad. So I got practice tomorrow, and I'm just gonna try to keep it simple and kind of take the lessons I learned with this and take it to the field with these girls, because they're only 8 and 9 years old. But they were pretty upset at game walking to me, and I was like, man, I got to do something else. So, as long as they're having fun, but they didn't look like they're having fun. They're crying, their legs are hurt, they got kicked by the ball. Somebody's got a bloody nose. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So, but yeah, no, I'm just trying to keep it simple too. But so that way when I'm ready to go. So I appreciate everything you
Absolutely.
said. So
And what you're teaching your kids, not just your kids, but the kids on the team, is invaluable. And I will say this, and you can pass this on to your team that you're coaching, right? My second oldest granddaughter was playing volleyball last year, her first year playing volleyball, and they were awful, terrible. I mean, rotten. It was sad to watch, right? It just got stomped and stomped and stomped. This year, it's like watching collegiate volleyball, the way they're setting it in 1 year's time. It's amazing what happens. And they need to just know that what happens today isn't going to define who they are next week, and definitely not next year. You know,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
amazing. You don't see those little changes when you're crying, but when you're done and looking back in 1 year's time, it was an absolute complete trans. And I see that with, you know, my own kids. When my daughter was a professional dancer, you know, I remember her dancing when she first started, and you look at the course of the years, and then it's just phenomenal. So none of us stay the same.
Yep. So right on. Well, thank you,
All
Rod.
right. Well, thanks for your input, Wayne. It's always nice to hear from you. And I'm going to end this tonight. We've got 10 more minutes, but I'm going to end this with an observation I had. We got to spend some time with some friends of ours that we've known for over 30 years. And we've had lots of time together, and we raised young kids together. You know, my youngest daughter was born when their youngest daughter was born, and that sort of thing. And now they're in their 30s. That tells you how long we've had this relationship. But they moved out of state probably 20 some years ago. And we get together once every couple of years. And this is my observation, and my kids noticed it. They were asking me, well, what's going on with these two people, right? And I said, here's the problem. I said, I've got lots of friends, lots of business associates, lots of acquaintances. And over the course of 20, 30 years, they've all changed. They've all evolved. They've changed careers. They've changed political opinions. They might have even changed, you know, the religious ideas, right? I mean, there has been change that you can see. And they're not the same people they were 30 years ago. And these people have not changed in 30 years. I can see no growth. You know, their mindset's the same. Their complaints about life and jobs, and all they ever do is compare themselves to other people. And their greatest acclaim to fame is the people they know who have made it and have money, because that's all they talk about is other people's money and other people's things. And they've been like that for over 30 years. And it's harder and harder to spend time around them. It really is. I mean, it's almost like we suffer ourselves to maintain a relationship that, you know, you keep hoping and praying that people will get it, that they will see the benefit of changing their mindset, not being negative and not being just focused on the same thing all the time. So expanding your horizons and getting out there. But I think it's just, after what Heidi said last week, that, you know, our talks tend to be more on the line of, you know, what was her comment? It was something about emotional knowledge or something, that we provide some of that. Emotional intelligence, that's what it was. And that's the difference between the people in this group. You're emotionally intelligent because you're willing to take advice and to change and push the limits. And that's what makes it so exciting for us to be able to work with all of you guys, you know, to watch that change happen. So don't be like the friends I have that haven't changed in 30 years. That's my takeaway from a 30-year life lesson relationship. All right. Anything else? Final thoughts, Rachel?
Final thoughts. I will share everybody who's following along an update on my staffing update that I shared last week. That
Yes.
I told you that I finally broke down and hired someone to help at the house, just like I would hire someone to help at work. And
Yes.
it's been an absolute game changer. I have been more present. I have been more valuable when I am there. For my, not just for my kids, but for my family, and for just being open to life, and let it sort of happening, and having impromptu sort of conversations, or letting myself really engage versus just checking the box and running off to the next thing, or thinking about the next thing. Or I'm like, oh, okay, great. Well, tell me, how does that make you feel? Like I'm there. So it's been a wonderful week of having this new addition into our lives, and the kids have really taken to it. And there was one day last week where I was hosting 40 people at the house of potential new parents for Modern Day High School. And I had the president of the high school here and the advancement office, and everybody was here. And one of the kids got sick and one of the kids needed to like have a ride somewhere. And I was like, I don't know what I would have done if this blessing hadn't come into our lives at the time, because there's no way I would have been able to do it all as a single mom by myself. There's just no way. So, but it's going really well. So thank you for everybody who's been, you know, following along on our journey. And I'll continue to keep you updated. And then I'll be in Montana on Wednesday. I think my plane gets in at like 11 or something, bright and early. I leave here at like 5:30 in the morning. So I'll be there most of the day on Wednesday, all day Thursday for the Reminisce event. And I want to see everybody that I can while I'm in town. And I want
Awesome.
pictures. So be camera ready.
Okay.
We're gonna take lots of pictures.
All right. All right. Might have to shave it off. We'll see.
Either way, that'll be great. So, all right. Thanks,
Be good
everybody.
to see you again. Everybody, thanks for being on. If you're watching this down the road, thanks for tuning in. Good night.